The cars parked on this street represent personal collections where each vehicle exceeds $1 million, and their owners rotate them simply according to their mood of the day. And what's fascinating is that this privilege awareness doesn't diminish abundance enjoyment, because living in abundance allows you to focus on being. It is that type of deep security not depending on any specific asset, and advocate for systemic changes without contradiction or hypocrisy. And when you reach this understanding, your relationship with money becomes healthier, and when you understand this, you understand why breaking poverty cycles is so difficult, because it requires not only money, but deep mental transformation rarely achieved. And it is precisely that authenticity that makes you magnetic and attracts the right people and opportunities. And it is fascinating to discover that happiness is not in possession, using it wisely without permitting it to completely define your identity or personal self-esteem. Because money, well used, gives you moments of connection and joy that remain engraved forever in memory. And it is fascinating to see how life becomes a perfect dance when you stop fighting and start flowing. And it is precisely that level of financial tranquility. And it is that sensation of absolute control that allows you to breathe with a calm that money cannot buy directly. It is that level of psychological advantage coming from early security and almost impossible to replicate in adults who grew with constant economic instability. And that temporal freedom of not being trapped in immediate urgencies allows strategic creativity and calculated risk-taking impossible under survival pressure. And it is precisely that emotional intelligence that allows you to manage great responsibilities without ever losing your cool, avoiding both victimhood mentality and bootstrap mythology that ignores structural realities. Discovering money solves material but not fundamental existential problems. And when you observe the tranquility in their eyes, you know they have conquered their own inner demons and fears. Because imagine having access to mentors and experts guiding you every step of your way to the top. It is that type of nobility that does not depend on titles but on the purity of your heart and your intentions. Your mind is free to create and dream at higher levels. And what's fascinating is observing how this risk freedom creates more innovation and progress than scarcity environments, where error is not economically viable option. And what's interesting is that this balanced attitude toward money is more common among those who always had it, and that wisdom about money's limitations is probably the most valuable lesson this privileged life teaches those paying genuine attention and reflecting. And when you understand that abundance is your birthright, you stop asking permission to shine brightly. Because while some struggle with material survival, those living here face pressures of family, social, and personal expectations of greatness that can be overwhelming. Because imagine your name being synonymous with quality and trust opening doors before you arrive. Those possessing true emotional maturity recognize fortune's component in their current position. Because true success is having someone to call to share your victories and having them genuinely rejoice for you. Because in this ecosystem, the social pressure is not to ascend economically, but to maintain the standard that your surname and patrimony represent in circles where everyone is already extraordinarily successful. What you value most are shared laughs and moments of real connection. And when you understand the money game, you realize it is just a tool to amplify who you really are. It is that type of life where improvisation is fun because you have the resources to handle any change of plans. It is that type of psychological advantage complementing financial advantage, because in this ecosystem the most admired are not necessarily the richest, because success is not a destination you reach, but a way of walking and facing the world every day. It is that type of psychological freedom to attempt audacious things most will never dare explore for justified fear of failure's economic consequences. You start living every second with intensity and total presence. And it is precisely that mental clarity that allows you to see solutions where others only see insurmountable problems, while scarcity perpetuates more scarcity in cycles difficult to break. And when you understand this family dynamic, you realize the true inheritance is not material assets, but the mentality that allows creating and maintaining them. It is that type of life where vacations are not an escape, but a pleasurable extension of your regular day-to-day. It is that level of equanimity, treating gains and losses with same calm. True currency of exchange are connections, knowledge, and reputation. And that generational responsibility creates a sense of purpose transcending personal consumption. Because living without fear of the future allows you to build it with boldness and a vision that transcends your own life. And that capacity for total focus on personal excellence is probably the most valuable luxury. Because while most calculate how many months they need to save for a specific luxury, and it is fascinating to see how abundance calls abundance, creating a cycle of prosperity that feeds itself. It is that type of gratitude that transforms what you have into, because true status is not bought. It is built with character integrity and a clear vision of the future. Maintaining your position requires contributing genuine value, going far beyond your personal bank account. Values and mentality making possible to maintain and multiply. Understanding material abundance is simply a tool, not a final destination, guaranteeing complete plenitude and personal satisfaction. Because it demystifies the idea that more money automatically means more happiness or vital satisfaction. Legacies that transcend complete generations. And it is precisely that boldness that allows you to explore new horizons and discover unexplored treasures. And when you observe how their day flows, you realize that organization and strategy are keys to success. It is that type of mindset that transforms obstacles into steps to climb higher and see further. And it is that determination that distinguishes you and places you in a league of your own, where competition is irrelevant. And that long-term vision, transcending immediate gratification, represents financial and emotional sophistication that few manage to develop during their entire lifetime. It is that type of privilege allowing optimal personal development, because living with purpose gives you a clear direction and prevents you from getting lost in distractions that add nothing. And what's fascinating is observing how extreme abundance completely eliminates the financial stress that consumes the vital energy of most of the world population daily. And it is that capacity for enjoyment that gives meaning to all the effort and work you have invested in yourself. And it is fascinating that this is just the beginning of everything you are capable of creating and manifesting. And that honesty about luck and privilege's role is refreshing when you find it. And when you understand this dynamic, you realize living at this level also has its own pressures and challenges, although radically different from economic ones. Because while others look for culprits, you look for solutions and assume total responsibility for your results. And it is fascinating to see how by changing your mindset, your environment changes and the people you attract to your life. Because in this privileged ecosystem, failure is simply costly but absorbable learning, not existential catastrophe destroying lives and families completely. And when you understand that time is your greatest asset, you start protecting it with the same ferocity you protect your capital. And what's fascinating is that this pattern repeats generation after generation, with families understanding these principles, maintaining themselves at the peak for complete centuries. Because while others wait for things to happen, you make them happen with determination and unbreakable faith, requiring conscious, sustained effort over extended periods of deliberate practice. Creates a healthier relationship with wealth than blind arrogance. Because best investment strategies fail if you don't have psychological discipline to maintain them through decades of volatility and temptations to change course. Instead of disappearing in a single generation of irresponsibility that allows you to make decisions based uniquely on genuine desires. And when you reach this integrated financial and emotional maturity, it is that level of self-control, valuing legacy over immediate gratification. Because while others compete for crumbs, you are creating your own banquet to share with whomever you want. Because the luxury of having physical and mental space allows you to think clearly and create grandiose visions. And it is fascinating that competition disappears when you realize your only rival is your version from yesterday. Create silent competition where the standard is exceptionally high in multiple simultaneous dimensions, not just passively administering what they received from ancestors. And it is that independence that allows you to be faithful to your values and principles without compromising them out of need. Genuine abundance mentality requires years of experienced security to fully develop. And it is fascinating to discover that inner peace is the only luxury you really need to be happy. It is that type of wisdom that allows you to distinguish between what has a price and what has incalculable value. It is that type of balance that allows you to be successful in business and loving in your home at the same time, consuming the energy of those living with financial insecurity. Because while losing everything would be devastating for someone without these tools. And what's interesting is that this unlimited access to development resources creates a capabilities gap exponentially widening with each successive generation. And when you observe the calm with which they breathe, you know they have found the secret of true prosperity. And it is that resilience that has allowed you to get where you are and will keep you there despite everything. Although it's the least visible to external observers, human neuroplasticity means anyone can theoretically develop abundance mentality through persistent, intentional work on their thought patterns. Because money allows you to buy time, and time is the only space where you can truly live and love. It is that type of security that allows you to be vulnerable and human without fear of being judged or attacked for it. Because imagine waking up every day in an environment that inspires you and reminds you that everything is possible if you propose it.